A lot of black kids weren't raised by monsters. They were raised by the unhealed silence of tired people trying to outlive systems. And when that system yelled, when that silence yelled, we called it parenting. See, there's this wound beneath the voice of every black exhausted parent called exhausted authority, because the black parent voice often carried thunder. Right? Right? It does. Exhausted authority absolutely carries thunder, but not because the child is dangerous, but because the parent has no space to be soft. So they end up not even yelling at you, but yelling through you because they've never been allowed to cry. We didn't hear correction. We heard fatigue in disguise. Command became control. Protection became punishment. That is not discipline. That is displaced terror from a system that made you raise children like soldiers in a war you never even signed up for. See, there's a difference between survival parenting and safe parenting. Many black parents weren't given the tools to nurture, only to protect. So when everything became a battlefield, grades are survival, clothes are respectability, talking back is threat detection, emotions are a luxury item. But the child wasn't fighting, they were feeling, and no one knew how to hold that. They taught you how to keep us alive, but not how to make us feel alive. That's the thing that's important, right? Because teaching your kid, or even teaching you how to keep your kid alive, how they can protect themselves, that doesn't teach them how to feel alive on a single day of their life. What the child learns from this is that love means fear. Because when parenting is mostly correction and command, children equate love with performance. I'll only be hugged if I achieve. They only speak when I mess up. I have to shrink so they can breathe. Right? This doesn't create obedience. It creates emotional exile. The child learns to how to behave, but never how to belong. And you know where it comes from? You know where it comes from? It comes from white fear and black pressure. Let's just name the systems. Schools that call CPS instead of parents are part of the problem. Police that turn mischief into mugshots, that's part of the problem. Neighborhoods that judge hair as a threat are part of the problem. White society that demands your child to act grown so their kids can stay innocent are part of the problem. This is what black parenting was fighting, because they need a 5-year-old to turn to a 50-year-old emotionally just so they can make it to 18. And in doing so, they sometimes pass the trauma forward, and instead of softening the child for the world, they hoarded a child for the world. That's all that happens. So I got two things going on for both sides, because your pain is valid as the child. Your pain is valid, but and the silence wasn't your fault. You deserve gentleness even if your parent never got it. And to the parent, right, to the parent, because you aren't even wrong for being tired. You were wrong for thinking that the child should carry it with you. We don't heal this with shame. That's it. That's all I'm getting at. We don't heal this with shame. We heal it by grieving what both sides lost. If the fire went out, ask what you stopped feeding it with. The child who needed softness, that's how you got to approach him. The parent who never got to feel safe enough to give it, that's what we need to talk about. Because until we name this wound, we'll keep calling survival parenting a virtue when it was always a symptom of a world that made peace impossible. That's all that's going to go on. That is literally the way to resolve this kind of thing. Exhausted authority is a serious problem. It is, because it causes a lot of problems. And if you sit here with a case of exhausted authority, maybe you ain't never felt safe in a while. And maybe you weren't allowed to be soft as a child, but it absolutely was your responsibility today to choose something.